So a little bit about my neurodivergence. I am self-discovered, self-diagnosed, but as I often say, when you know, you know. I spent 51 years of my life, possibly not in the first few years, trying to work myself out. I was given many labels during my life, and none of those labels felt accurate. I wasn't quiet. I wasn't shy. Introvert, yes. Sensitive, yes. Too sensitive, no. With capital letters and a Felicia beacon, no. Deeply sensitive, deep feeling. But there was always a feeling of being different. And I didn't know what that difference was. And I tried to work myself out for years. I remember at university, when I was 18, 19, taking, yes, and I am this old, what they called a correspondence course. Little parcels arrived in the post about self-esteem. And what I will add quickly in here is I experienced relational trauma, childhood trauma, dysfunctional family dynamics, and dysfunctional relationships, and that's for a whole other time. So there was a lot at play, but I was always trying to work myself out. And in my early 20s I lived in America for a year, and that was heaven for me, because in America they did self-help books, and so I read a lot, and I have read a lot, and now listen a lot to podcasts and audiobooks to try and work myself out. But when somebody said to me, do you think you might be, because my therapist at the time was neurodivergent, and she was posting about it, and I remember sending her a list of things, and that was her question, do you think you might be? And it was like, oh, mic drop, there we go, that's it. And guess what? I came from a special needs background. I was a teacher, and I became a dyslexia specialist, and I wanted to support children who felt like they were struggling. And although literacy was my bag, I love literacy, reading, spelling, yeah, not dyslexic, but it was interesting that that's what I really wanted to support people with. I wanted to support children to love reading, to be able to read, to be able to access, but I didn't want people to struggle. I didn't want them to feel like they didn't fit. And looking back, it's because I didn't. And I even remember in my dyslexia training doing a talk on Asperger's syndrome, because in the early 90s that was with Tony Atwood, that was a huge subject of conversation, and I sort of recognised myself a little bit, but not enough because of the gender bias. So at 51 to realise, yeah, I'm autistic, aren't I? And then the ADHD, again, self-diagnosed, self-discovered, was another mic drop moment. Of course. Yeah. And I've been sitting with those labels that helped me hugely. The two labels that I've ever been given that are accurate. And at first it felt like my world was thrown into disarray, because I was recovering from a breakdown because of all the trauma and the unhealthy relationships I was in. So there's been a lot to process, but those labels have brought me home, and they've brought me new people, and they've brought compassion into my life, and yeah, they've been really positive. So just a little bit about me and my neurodivergence.